Top 20 games of all time. Yes, we're nearly there, nearly at the end. We're gonna soon find out what my top 10 favorites are, and it's not the same as before, so you know there have been some changes. But these 20 games, oh my god, I mean, I love all 100 of these games I've been talking about, but the more we got onto the top, the more I just passionately love these games, and hopefully you do as well. But I'm sure there's going to be a few that you passionately hate as well. Feel free to mention it in the comments. It's great to see the back and forth, you know, the different tastes between people. And again, thank you for all your views and the support with this top 100. So without further ado, let's look at this next batch, the 20 to 11. So close. 2 debuts, yes, and one of them you're going to be very surprised to see this high up. I guarantee this is going to shock a lot of people. The rest of them, though, I'd say, well, some have fallen out of the top 10, so you will see some interesting ones there. And there has been one fairly high riser very soon. Apart from that, reasonably steady. So yeah, there's certainly been some activity in this set. Any particular? Nobody sort of gets a highlighter in terms of designer and publisher, at least over others. But yeah, you're going to see some great games on this. At least I hope you think they're great games. So let's get a move on. Number 20. My number 20 is, without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite social deduction game, period. You know, no question about it. You know, you put all the social deduction games in a row, I will pick this one first over any other. I didn't even think I would go so mad over it, but they said, oh, it's got a similar mechanic to Mysterium. It's like, okay, I'm listening. You know, you get to figure out a murderer and stuff like that. Okay, I'm listening. We've seen that before and that. One of you can't talk. Okay, that's the Mysterium part. Fair enough. You know, well, let me try it and see. It turns out that Deception, Murdering Hong Kong is just that much fun. And this is the expansion box. So I've got the extra cards in it, which are probably all over the place now, because unfortunately the insert doesn't store them very well when you store the game vertically. But, oh well, I'll worry about that when I next play the game. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, though, oh my god, this is so much fun. You and a team of investigators are trying to figure out who the murderer is, and you have a bunch of cards. Some are the murder weapon, some are evidence left at the scene. The murderer, in a kind of nighttime-esque phase, when everyone's got their eyes closed, will pick one of each, and they may have an accomplice that's helping them. The good side will have the investigators who are trying to figure it out, a witness who knows who the murderer and accomplice are, but doesn't know which one is which, and has to stay hidden, because at the end of the game, ooh, you're the witness, boom, and they lose. But there's also a forensic scientist. A forensic scientist who cannot talk. It's a bit like the Ghost of Mysterium, and they will put clues out on these different tiles to simulate like a location, a cause of death, and 4 random ones that can be anything from the weather to the victim's build to the expression on his face, you know, all sorts of weird stuff. And from that point, everybody's in group discussion, everybody does individual sort of 30-second spiels as if you were addressing the court, and you're trying to figure out who the murderer is, and the murderer is trying to stay hidden. It's a great social deduction game with hidden roles, and this expansion adds even more cards. I've got theme cards for different countries, and you've even got extra roles, you know, ones that can protect the witness and some that throw a spanner in the works. It's a great, fabulous, fun social deduction game, and I never have it go flat. I love being the forensic scientist in this, actually more than I like the, you know, being the detectives, because I just like to hear everybody else around the table come up with 101 different ways that they can kill someone with the various items that are on the table. And in your head, you have to picture how this crime took place. So the murderer just picks 2 cards. But you're the one that has to say, now this probably took place in an office block. There was an elevator. So a workman was coming in to fix the elevator. A young girl with a teddy bear was there. And then the murder weapon was a wrench. I know this gets dark, but it's you know, it's a solid game all round, and I just love how the stories turn out. Everyone's laughing, and then at the end, you're like, yes, we figured it out. But then there's still that one chance for the murderer to catch the witness and get away scot-free. Absolutely love this game. There is no social deduction game that I like better than this one. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, expansion or not, love it to bits. Right, I knew it was getting a little bit darker outside, so I've turned a few more lights on. Hopefully that will benefit the rest of the video. So my number 9, let's see, first of all, Deception and Murder in Hong Kong at 20 had dropped 6 places from 14, so it was still pretty straightforward on this list. I'm sorry I've been forgetting to mention quite a few of the stats lately, but I'll try to remember more for this list. Let's see, my number 19 has... Oh, this is the riser, yes. This has risen 15 places from 34. It is just getting better and better every time I play it. I hear there's a new expansion on the way, cannot wait. Although, don't make it any more too much more complex, because it's already pretty complex, and I don't even use all the variants that are in this. But this is one of those complex, heavy Euro games that gets time travel right. It is such a hard theme to replicate in a board game, time travel, to make it thematic but also have it make sense. This is the game that does it perfectly. But even without the time travel aspect, you've got all the different workers that have different abilities that you put out. You've got these cool mech miniatures. If you've got the expanded version, you can even have a variant that alters when this cataclysm is going to take place, so you can vary the game length in such a way. You've got, obviously the contention with other players. It's a worker placement game, different buildings you can make. There's all sorts you can do in this wonderfully thematic time travel aspect game. And this is going to be a heavy one, so bear with me. This is going to be tough. Oh God. Oh. Whew. Yeah. I'm just going to put it on its side rather than stand it up. Anachrony. Yes, Anachrony is climbing up my list. It is now in my top 20 games. I love teaching this to players. I love, granted I have a bit of an advantage now, but I wouldn't say I was an expert at the game. But it's got a cool solo mode in it. It's got interesting variants, which make it a little bit more complex than maybe it needs to be, but I can take them or leave them. But even just the normal game, as long as you're using the reverse sides of the board so that everybody's asymmetrical, it's just a wonderful experience. Having to deal with this meteor that's going to hit the ground at some point, but the variant might change that. But even if you don't use the variant and it's fixed, you're planning for when that's going to hit with your various faction bonuses. But on top of that, you've got to research super projects, you've got to build different buildings that get your engine up and running, you've got to hire workers, and each worker has a different role. They're good at building, they're good at recruiting more, they're good at doing the science stuff, or they can only do the science stuff because there's restrictions as well. It's just such a wonderful, immersive, heavy game. And anybody who says this isn't heavy is just seriously, you're lying. Come on. This is heavy, okay? This is a heavy, complex Euro game. But I like heavy, complex Euro games when they're immersive, engaging, and wonderfully thematic. And this one does that all in spades. It's a solid entry. I've got a custom insert in there, wooden insert, which granted I have to kind of remember how I store it, because otherwise you're like, it's like the Krypton factor trying to work out how to get everything in if you don't remember how it goes in. So I keep the diagram in there for safekeeping. This is a Kickstarter version with the sleeve, which is starting to look a little bit worn, but it's a sign of a loved game. But this is mainly just to protect the game underneath it, really. Apart from that, the insert, this outer covering is just there for that, really. But I've got the mech miniatures, I've got upgraded components in there from the Kickstarter. I can't wait to see what this expansion includes. It's going to be interesting. I'm trying to keep a low knowledge base of what that expansion will include, because I want to be surprised by it. It's what I like with expansions. Sometimes I'll find out more about them, but most of the time I just like the designer or somebody else to show me the expansion and go, surprise, this is what it's got. And it's always a good bit of fun for me. So, Anachrony, solid. Rising up the list, probably isn't going to hit the top 10, but could stay in the top 20, I don't know. It's a blast to play, long, complex, but I've enjoyed it every time. Number 18 has risen 3 places, so it's leaped out of the top of the 30 to 21 list and straight into this list. Probably will remain in this list for a bit, maybe drop down to the next 10 again. It's certainly not going to drop any further than that, especially not with the expansion I've recently got for it. In fact, I think that's why it's climbed into this into this batch of 10, is because of that expansion. Because the problem I had with this first is that as much as it's an amazing sandbox Euro game, it's mainly only for 2 players. It's hard for me to get 2 players out to the table, but I love playing as solo. It's a sandbox Euro game, so I can just play it solo and have great fun with it. This was constantly at war with Caverna on an earlier top 10, where I was thinking, which one do I prefer, Caverna or this one, Caverna or this one? But at the end, this had to win out the day, especially as the expansion that I bought for it has just managed to not only up the player count to 3, meaning I can bring it to the table more, but introduce new ways of scoring and new things that you can use that just make it a even better experience. This is my favorite Uri Rosenberg game of his lot. Fields of Arle. I believe it is definitely, yep, no more Uri Rosenberg games. This is my favorite from his lot. Pure, ultimate sandbox Euro, more so than Caverna even was. This one has you basically on like a sort of shoreline in somewhere in North Germany, and you're building, you're doing everything that you would expect in an Uri Rosenberg farming style game. Raising animals, growing wheat, building dikes, to keep back the water, draining your moors, leveling up tools, building buildings, getting ships, doing trading, going exploring to nearby villages, gathering resources, building fences. Is there anything I've missed? I can't recall, but there's so much you can do in this game. So many options. It's a point salad, so pretty much everything you do will get you points, but you can end up with some good tight scoring. It just feels rewarding every time you do something, and I love just picking a specialism and focusing on that. But like I said, this was already 21 without the expansion. The expansion, which I have to keep in a separate box, unfortunately, because this box is not, there's no insert designed in order to hold everything yet. Tea and Trade, which I've done a review of, go check that video, is what's made it climb. Because now I can play it with 3 players. And the best thing is, it's actually more fun with 3 players. Yeah, it's mostly multiplayer solitaire, apart from the worker placement aspect, it's pretty much multiplayer solitaire. But with 3 players, each player, in order to balance the game length out, starts with 2 specialisms. So you have a choice of either 2 tools that you level up straight away, or a free basic building. And the basic building will cost twice as much to build, but for each tool you level up, the opponents get the resources it would cost to do that. So you start in play with more resources potentially, you start with 2 tools leveled up, and suddenly you have something to aim for from the word go. What am I going to aim for? I'm going to be a really good fisherman, so I might as well level that up first. I'm going to obviously be a toolsmith as well, so I better level that one up as well. So it just gives you a starting point. But the other thing with this, tea, the resource tea. I love tea, so it's nice to have it in the game. But as well as being able to build ships, which is a nice addition, the tea is a way to really make your actions much more tactical and interesting. Because when you collect the tea resource, yes, they're worth points, which is all well and good. But depending on whether it's normal tea or the proper, what they call it, East Frisian tea, not entirely certain of the history behind it, but the cool thing with this is that those tea tokens, they allow you to improve the actions you're taking, or even do the action twice. You're spending points to make this action really good, and it's a tough balance. Do I want to spend 2 points to get this action twice? Probably yes, because it means I can get this really cool building and do all this cool stuff as well. Love this expansion. It is seriously helped this game, get to the table more with the whole 3-player thing, but even without this, I still loved it. Pure sandbox. I choose what I want to do. Game does not force me to do it their way. I do it my way. It's the way I love a sandbox Euro, so we're the A-team. Fields of Arle. It's now won the war over Caverna. This one is definitely the one I prefer over the 2, but it's like telling me which do you prefer out of a Cornish ice cream or vanilla ice cream. I love ice cream. It's just Cornish wins it out. So Fields of Arle, number 18. My 17 hasn't moved. Hasn't moved at all. It was 17 last year, it's 17 this year. It is staying really steady. Even though I now have a new deluxe version of this. Well, I say deluxe. It's basically a box with more cards in it. This one is a hard one for me to get to the table, I admit, because mostly I only want to play this with 2 players, occasionally with 3, never with 4, unless that you really know what you're doing in this game, and we have to play in teams. But this is a solid tactical card game, the ultimate tactical card game. You cannot play this strategically. It's impossible, because the cards you get are going to fundamentally change how the turns progress. So you have to make the best use of what you've got. And this can lead to a bit of analysis paralysis from new players, hence it's a little bit hard to get it to the table and make it really work. But when it does work, I love it to bits. All it needs is a solo variant to come out and it could rise even higher. Love this tactical card game from Asmadi. Innovation. Yes, and some of you are probably like, bleh. You don't like this game. And granted, as much as this deluxe version is better than the original Asmadi version, it's still not exactly the great in artwork. I did used to own the yellow version, but it only had one expansion for it, and it had a really horrible insert for it. So when this deluxe version was announced, it's kind of like, yeah, kind of, I'm happy with the basic artwork and graphic design, just let me have all the expansions and the cards again, and a carry box for it. Innovation is just straight up tactics. Each card it works with multi-use cards, sort of. I mean, they're used for scoring and they're used for a couple of other bits, but for the most part, it's the abilities on the cards. You can have 5 different colors worth of cards in front of you, and each one has abilities that can trigger. Some are cooperative and some are aggressive. The co-op ones, they're all based on symbols. If your opponents have at least as many co-op co-op symbols as you, then they have to do the ability, whether they like it or not, but they get a benefit potentially out of it. Whereas the aggressive ones, if you have more than your opponents, you force them to do something bad. And it's a tug of war with like trying to have as many symbols of a particular type. Like you've got more crowns, I've got more leaves, and different symbols sort of work with different cards. You know, some colors are better with just directly screwing over the opponent's scoreboard, and some are better at doing shenanigans with your own scoreboard, or maybe with your opponent's hand. There's lots of different ways this game can end. It can end, you know, after the 10th age, you score up points. Somebody can reach a certain amount of dominations, they're called, you know, before the game ends. Or there might be a card in the 10th age that simply just says, meet this condition and you win. So there's multiple ways to win, multiple ways to get points, and it's all done based on tactics. You can't strategize. The cards are just, they're going to come out. You don't know what they're going to be like. Your opponent picks up a card and suddenly he can mess with you like crazy. You've now got to react to this. It's not like you could plan he was going to do that. You now have to react. It's like, oh, he's going to completely destroy my board if I don't defend. Maybe if I put this out first, I can do that. Or this ability might allow me to defend. I love it. Love games that make you think on the fly in a tactical sense. And that is why I love this game so much. It doesn't even take that long to play. I mean, you're talking about an hour with 2 or 3 of you if you actually know what you're doing. Teaching a new player might take a bit longer. But yeah, I just really love this game. Innovation Deluxe. You know, Tom gets a lot of a stick on the dice tower for liking Innovation, but I'm with him. I love this game. 17, still 17. Right, shocker time. Number 16 is the first debut of the remaining 4 left on this top 100, and this is the one out of these debuts you should not be expecting. Well, unless you've been paying good attention to some of my written reviews that I've done in the past for like guest posts, but I haven't done a video on this one. I've just talked about it on Twitter and Facebook, and I did a written review for Games Quest once, but most of you are thinking there is no way this game could be on this list, let alone this high. It's impossible. Everything about this game should scream out, Luke will hate this game. And I can see why. It has pretty much no theme. It is bone dry themed, as much as they try to paste it on. It is a direct point salad. Now, I like point salads, but it depends on how they work. I mean, I don't like a lot of Stefan Feld's point salads, but that's because the way the mechanics work in those I just find boring. Here though, the mechanics seem to work well, they're streamlined, there's no ambiguity, it's no like, oh, if you have at least this on the dice, then you get to do it. No, it's just, the dice is this. If you don't have this dice, you can't do the action. You only do 16 actions in the game, possibly up to 24 with bonus ones, but the way the dice drafting works in the start, the amount of options you have, which is mind-boggling, different paths to victory, you know, getting points for nearly everything, different ways to do it, variable setups. I love this game, and there is no reason I should. That is the weird thing. Everything screams out that I should hate Pulsar 2849. What? Seriously, what is going on here? You know, a game that is a super dry point salad. Why do I love it? I struggle to explain it as well. It's just, I don't know. Dice drafting is something I enjoy in games, so using dice in this was definitely a good thing. But I love that when you pick the dice, you have to consider that median point as they do it, you know, math. But, you know, you take one too far to the left or right and it shifts you on these 2 tracks for turn order and getting engineering cubes. And suddenly it's like, oh, I really could do with a 6, but if I do that, I'm going to shift miles back on turn order. Is it worth it? I don't know. And there's limited dice and you roll them each round, so the dice, like, variability is going to change. Like suddenly most of the dice are 1s and 2s, which is like, oh damn, I better find something good to do with low values. But then suddenly that 6 is so painful with the medium because it's miles at the other end. And you might have the flip side, you might get a bunch of high numbers and suddenly it's like, Well, I don't desperately need a 5 and a 6. Could take that 1 though and I'll shift 4 places on the cube. Suddenly I'll start getting all the resources. That alone is a cool decision that you have to make. But then once you get into the actions, all the options. Fly around space, go get pulsars, put your spinning gyrodynes on the pulsars and set them going, build transmitters, get technologies, build up your HQ board. There's so much stuff you can do, but it doesn't feel too overwhelming if you just stick to your game plan. Stick to the plan that you had and you won't be too overwhelmed. But it's very streamlined. The rulebook's good, it's easy to learn from it, it's easy to reference, it's got pictorial examples, but it just feels simple. You know, yeah, there's a lot of options and there's a lot of strategy involved and depth, but the rules themselves are not complex. It doesn't take me long to teach this game, especially when you just get into people's heads that if it has a picture of this die on it, you need this die. None of this, oh, you need at least a 3 to do this. So it's all like, oh, but I could do that, could do that. No. Do I have a 2? No. Well, I can't do it then. You know, it gets it out of your system. The game doesn't even take that long. I mean, you can play it between 2 to 4 players. Wish there was a solo variant, but oh well, never mind. And with 2 to 4 players, can take anywhere from between 60 minutes to 2 hours. The only time I've had this go longer than 2 hours is when I had stupid AP people, stupidly long AP people in it, and that was a bit too much. But usually 1 to 2 hours is as long as this game could take. That is a really good length for a Euro in general, and especially for a dry point salad. A lot of these other dry point salads can take longer than that time, and that's like not necessarily a good thing. But unlike, again, a lot of those Felds I mentioned, people like go mad over things like Trajan and stuff like that, Burgundy and some of his other games that are point salads. Personally, this one just does it better. Even though the theme is pasted on, at least it's space related. That's more interesting than, Roman times or whatever. And I don't know, it's just streamlined, point salad, lots of options, dice drafting, even nice components as well. I mean, it looks, it's nothing like stellar, but it looks colourful and like jumps out on the table. It's just something I like about this one. And this is the weird thing, because as much as I don't rag on publishers, but I don't tend to go for a lot of Czech Game Editions games. And are they on this list? Once. Yeah, this is the one game from Czech Game Editions that I adore enough to put in my top 100. I like some of their other games, but there's a lot of their games I don't like as well. But this one just shines through. Love it to bits. Pulsar. Oh yes. How long is this going to stay in my top 100? I don't know. Well, it'll probably remain in the top 100 forever, but how high it's going to be, I don't know. Another expansion would be good, add more tech boards, add more HQ boards, let's have more variety in the game. Don't add more mechanics, just give me more of the good stuff in an expansion and I'll go nuts for it. But even without it, so much to enjoy in this. Pulsar, the shocker of this batch of 10. Sorry for the bright light outside, sun's going up in a certain way and I can only balance the lighting so much with this, but let's carry on. My 15 was in my top 10 the last couple of years actually. It's fallen 8 places. I still love it to bits. Like I say, it's fallen out of my top 10. Doesn't mean I don't love it. I love teaching this at gateway events, the DICE events. In fact, I taught it once or twice at the Retro Games Fest actually the other week. I've got a deluxe version of this. It's a solid game all round. It's the Zen game, sort of underneath Tokaido, that I like to pull out where I just want to calm down and have a nice, relaxing game. Even though you can get frustrated with an opponent or two while you play this amazing classic. Yes, I love bears. That includes pandas. You've seen the mascot, Takinoko. Still really adore this game, and it's not even just that one. I'm not going to get it down, but I've got the deluxe version up there, so I've got the huge chunky wooden pieces. I take those along to some events as a big centerpiece, just to show everyone, here's Takinoko and its vibrant song. Would you like me to teach the game? I love this one. It's simple. I mean, it's a step above Gateway, so I don't normally like to teach it as a first game for people, but once it's there, it's a next step. And it just has you building this communal bamboo garden. You have a gardener and a panda on it. You're building the garden with tiles, different colored tiles, growing these nice little wooden bamboo trees. And as the game goes on, you want the panda to eat some bamboo, you want the gardener to grow different trees, you want to build the garden how you like, and you're trying to complete objectives. Nice and simple. The expansion takes it up another notch by introducing, for chibis, by introducing a female panda. This one wants to, well, to put it another phrase, mate with your male panda and make babies. They get you points, you can turn them over for little bonuses during the game, and there's a few extra tiles thrown in that allow you to do different things. You know, like one grows all the trees and one levels up, you know, grows every single tree on the map, not just adjacent to it of the same color. They do cool things. It doesn't make it too much more complicated, it just adds another neat trick. And of course, I do have the Chibi's Deluxe one as well, finally. So I got lucky. Thirsty Meeples had a copy of it at last year's expo, I think, and I grabbed it the second I found it on the price tag. Otherwise, I'd have to try and wait till Essen this year to even attempt to grab it. But this one just works so well when I teach it. People I've taught it to love this game. You know, a couple of people have not necessarily gone mad for it, but people get into the theme, the cutesy panda, the little tiny little miniatures and little bamboo trees and all the little colours. It's so nice and pretty and just, like I say, a nice little Zen-like game. Antoine Balzer, he puts together loads of cool games I like. In fact, how many times is he on this list? He's my second favourite designer. He's got 5 games on my top 100. Is this his highest? No. In fact, whoa, okay, this says a lot. He features 3 times in this top 20. This is the first. He's going to feature another 2 times. One on this 10 and one on the next 10. So yeah, kudos to you, Antoine Balzer. You design a lot of games I like. So can't fault you with that. Takinoko, number 15. It's not in my top 10. Still going strong though. My 14 is the next debut. So 2 more after this one and they're in the next batch of 10. Now, I don't tend to give a ton of praise. I'm not saying I hate them, but I don't tend to go mad for a lot of games by Eric Lang, as some people do. I mentioned XCOM earlier, and that is definitely a game by Eric Lang I do enjoy. But other than that, he features twice on this list. So XCOM and this one. Some people swear by a ton of other games that he's made, but when it just comes to a game, if it's just a bunch of miniatures, then I need more than just the miniatures to really get me into the game. And he's made some other games that I consider good, just not fantastic. You know, they're not enough to make a top 100 list. This one does though, straight into my top 20 games. I love this one. This is the game that its younger brother, Blood Rage, should have been, for me anyway. Blood Rage is fine, but it's got some issues with the variety in it. I don't like the way that the quests are just completely unthematic. You know, they just control 3 areas and get points. I don't like the way that some strategies, like the Loki strategy, are just blatantly more overpowered than others, or at least a lot easier for newbies to work with. But, like I say, it's decent, just not as great as I want it to. This one, though, oh yeah. And I'm not going to show the Dynasty version. I've got it all, but here we go. Rising Sun. Reviewed it earlier this year, check out that video, but yeah, this is a solid game for me. This is what I wanted Blood Rage to be. I like the theme more with that kind of feudal Japan type look. You've got the monster miniatures, which again look fantastic, and with this, granted, it's a Kickstarter version, so it does have all the spare monsters in it, but they look amazing. You've got the cards that you can buy that, you know, there are some that I think are easier to work than others, I'll admit, but I've managed to do well with a good combination of all of them. And the monsters, like I say, you will never get every monster, but you will be able to utilize different paths to victory by utilizing the monsters. And it's area control. You're fighting each other in combat, you know, straight up power. You've got your other little minions. You've got these gods that you can summon. If you use the variant in there, you can even have the gods as miniatures that come out onto the board. It just looks sublime on the table. It's gorgeous artwork, especially with that playmat. And the miniatures are greatly sculpted. I haven't painted them. I can't paint, so, you know, but even without the paint job, they still look amazing. All the different clans, I've got the Dynasty expansion, so what have I got now? 8 clans to pick from. And granted, I don't tend to want to play this with too many players. I mean, 4 is okay if you know what you're doing. 5's too many. I don't like 5. 3, again, broken record, the ultimate sweet spot. But even, can you play this with 2? I don't think, no, 3. So 3 to 5, or actually I can play 3 to 6 now with the expansion. So yeah, 5 to 6 is a bit too many. I'll only do 5 if everyone's played the game. 6 I will never do. 4 is decent enough. Again, AP players go home. 3 I love. You know, 3 is a very good amount for this. But yeah, 3 and 4. If you've got 3 and 4 players, this one just shines. The expansion will now give me all the content I need forever. I don't need any expansion to come out for this out. I've got all I need. I mean, yeah, if you want to bring out a few more monsters and a couple more factions, I'm all game for it. But at the moment, loving this one. Just looks the business and does what I wanted Blood Rage to do. I've done a review on this. I already love it to bits. I like to bring it out every now and again. It's not a short game by any means, and I've had to do some work in the insert sort of department in order to get it to quick setup. I've had to put stickers, coloured stickers in the Cool Mini or Not plastic insert so I can remember which monster went where. However, the Folded Space Kickstarter that was on recently for inserts, I ordered the Rising Sun and Dynasty expansion inserts for them. So soon I'll have some foam core inserts in here, and that will make things a lot easier to bring to the table. But yeah, I don't often go mad for Cool Mini or Not games, but this one is definitely one I can get behind. I love Rising Sun, debut at 14. Number 13, I'm not getting from the vault box behind me. I already showed you that on the last 10. But that giant, huge legendary box up there, most of that is Marvel legendary. One of them is Firefly, which barely takes up any space. Didn't make the top 100, but it's a decent game in its own right, even though the artwork is horrendous. There is also Predator in there, which I do like. You can almost say it's pretty much the same as this particular choice, but Predator, again, if I was to class them separately, probably wouldn't make the list by itself. But I kind of lump it in with this one because they play very similarly. But if you're going to say, come on Luke, which one of these encounter sets are you going to play and say is your favourite? It's definitely Alien Legendary Encounters. Love this one. I love the Alien franchise in general, even though the movies after Alien 3 suck. And I'm not saying Alien 3 is good. That's a caveat of saying Alien 1, the best horror movie ever made. Aliens, one of the best action sci-fi movies ever made. And Alien 3, director's cut, adequate. I can watch the director's cut of Alien 3 and be alright with it. After that, no, there was no Resurrection, there was no Covenant, there was no Prometheus, there was no anything, no more aliens after that, no. It's like, they really went downhill after that. I mean, are they still going to make Alien 5? I have no idea. Maybe they were, I have no idea. But frankly, nobody just knows how to make a decent Alien film. They know how to make good video games, though. Alien Isolation, go and play that, seriously. Anyway, I digress. Alien Legendary Encounters, I love this deck building game. Wonderfully thematic, and it's difficult to make a deck builder game thematic, especially when it's basically shuffling cards and creating a deck. But you can play the iconic movie moments, you can play all the characters that you're familiar with. It has the best way in any game to die by having a chestburster card go into your deck if you can't deal with a facehugger anytime soon. And you put it in your deck, and then, in your discard pile, and then when it eventually goes back into your deck and surfaces, you die. It's like instant death. It's the most tense, thematic and scary way that you can die in any game, and this deck builder, deck burster, just imagine it, it's like, where's it coming, it's like, no, that's so bad, but I'll keep that in. So yeah, when it comes out of the deck, it's so tense and scary, but love it. The artwork is hit and miss. It's not great, but some pictures are pretty good. It's kind of varied. The expansion, I think they just called it the Alien expansion, adds 2 more custom scenarios, that aren't based on the movies. It adds ways to make the aliens more tougher. If you need to make this game tougher, it's already pretty difficult. And it adds a way for you to play as the Alien Queen, which is okay, I can take it or leave it, but the mode works. I'm cool with it. But personally, even just playing this solo, like two-handed, or playing it with a group of players, with like 3 or 4 of us, I still really enjoy this game. There's good teamwork with the coordinate teamwork involved where you share cards with other players. The way that everything comes out face down is so thematically tied to how aliens work. And with the scenarios themselves, I mean, you can have, the one alien that you've got to kill out of the airlock. You've got to get it in the airlock and then beat it. You've got the Alien Resurrection scenario where in one bit, some of the places come out flooded, and if aliens are in there, they're more powerful and you're weaker. So it's got some great tie-ins to the movies, and that's why this one has to be my favourite of all the legendary games. It just works so well. It gives me that alien vibe, scratches that alien itch for me, and just works. It's the most thematic deck builder around. In fact, it's technically, I would say this is my favourite deck builder on the whole top 100. You can argue a couple of games coming up soon technically have you building decks, but it's not quite a deck building game. You'll know what I mean when I get to them. But yeah, in terms of just straight up deck building, here's your starter cards, build the deck, make it efficient. This is my favorite one. Adian, Legendary Encounters. As a stat for the previous one, my Legendary Encounters dropped 4 places from number 9. So it was in the top 10. Now it's as close as it needs to be to the top 10. For this one, my number 12 has dropped 6 places. It was my number 6. Now it's gone to 12. Might drop a bit further as time goes on, although the recent little mini expansion has helped keep it stable. It's improved one of the only little weaknesses I had in the game. But it's, like I say, it just hasn't been played as much in a while, just because there's so many other great games. But this one is definitely a game I love to bring out first for new players. You know, you can just hold off on the expansions, play a base board, and it's perfectly suited for gateway gamers. But then if people know the game well, you can throw in one of the many expansion maps, all the special rules, all the different characters you can play. It's a co-op, everybody can get into this theme, it's tactical, you know, you don't quite know how it's going to pan out. I have to reach up for this one because I keep it in a special crate now, you know, instead of the original box, because, well, I had too many maps. So here we go. This one I can at least lift off the top shelf. Here we go. Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Let's see if I can get the front lid off. There we go. Yeah. Flashpoint Fire Rescue. This is the broken token crate that they've got. So all the tokens are in the top, all the little fire things here, the cubes, the dice, all the bits from the expansions. But the main thing it has is that it has me to keep the cards in this part here, including the new expansion that replaces the fire deck. That was the one I was on about. But here, all the boards. So many of these boards. It's just, oh yeah, you can't really see that well. But yeah, just so many of them. I didn't have enough room in the boxes to keep the Flashpoint Fire Rescue, but now with this I have the means to store it, and it, you know, it can be a little fiddly to get the box lid on. Oop, here we go. Let's see. Come on. Maybe there we go. Flashpoint Fire Rescue. I'll keep it there for a bit. Yeah, this co-op I've loved. This was the first game I ever reviewed on the Broken Meeple channel, and I still love it to this day. It's always been in the top 100. I think it's always been in my top 10 each time, and now it's just fallen a little bit by the wayside. But like I say, it's number 12, people, okay? It's still my 12th favourite game. Whether I play the expansion map or the base set with new players, I love just the vibe, and now everyone gets into the theme. You know, we got to save these people. Everyone laughs at how the fire goes. I'm like, yeah, we got this under control. We're totally good. Oh god, yes, yeah, famous last words. And then suddenly, boom, everything goes to pot as one player decides he's going to be an arson terrorist and just roll constantly explosion, and everything goes mad. And suddenly everyone's frantically running around trying to put out fires and save people. It's a wonderful experience as a co-op. Granted, you can accept that the balance in the game is a little bit harder when you add more players in. That is one weakness of the game. When you get to 5 and 6 players, you're kind of asking to lose because there's so many times you're rolling that fire and not enough characters to deal with it. But you just play on an easier difficulty and there you go. But when you play it by, you know, solo or 2, 3, 4 player, you can go on the harder difficulties. I have beaten it on heroic before, and it's just a tense, great game, great co-op. You know, it's been out for a while. I've had all the expansions since. I've bought this box. It's one that's going to stay in the collection forever. I still really enjoy just the sheer tension and vibe that this co-op gives to me. Whether you're a gamer or a newbie, I can teach this to you and we'll have a blast. Literally, a blast. Get it? So, Flashpoint Fire Rescue, my number 12. And finally, to round up this second to last patch of the top 100, this has fallen one place. This has just edged out of the top 10. Like it makes a difference. You know, it's still one of my favourite games ever. This one is the game that some people like to teach as their first drafting game, but personally, it's got too much iconography, a bit too much involved for it to be a first game for people, I feel. Even though it was the first game I learnt when I joined my Portsmouth on Board game club. Had an expansion in it, lots of iconography, I joined in, I'm a quick learner, decimated them with my military uprunning. So yeah, it worked for me, but doesn't work as well for everybody with this, so I prefer to stick to Sushi Go. But this is still a solid game. Without expansions, it would probably be a bit lower in the top 100, but as leaders, cities, Babel and the upcoming Armada has been coming out, this game, Seven Wonders, has continuously still been a massive hit for me. It's just, by the time, when people know how to play this game, it's just so quick. Even when you throw in all the expansions, you know, I've got the leaders bit, I've got all those black cards, I've got all the different guilds, I've got that Babel Tower I really like, I seem to be the only person that likes that. The projects, and what Armada is seeking to do, all the different factions, I like playing the harder ones to try and get a bit of a challenge. It's just a solid game that I can play with up to 7 players and not have a problem getting it to the table. It's just seems to work so well and so smooth. Now with newcomers, you're kind of forced to play the original game without any expansions, and that, it's okay, I still enjoy it, but I much prefer this with the expansions. As I said, it'd be much lower down the list if it didn't have the expansions. The expansions have added enough meat to this game where I can go, it's still simple, still fine, but because I'm used to all the iconography, I can just tell people what each thing does, and we can just have a nice, meatier Seven Wonders. Yes, it probably won't take half an hour anymore, but it still shouldn't take longer than an hour to finish the game. It's still nice and quick for what it is. So, you know, don't play the 2-player variant. Definitely don't do that. But 3 to 7 players, I'll play this still fine. You know, works just as well with 3 players, I find, you know, broken record, but 3 players is a great sweet spot for this. But then 4, 5, 6, 7, if you know what you're doing in this game, it will still go pretty fast and still be really entertaining. So, not much more I can say about this. This is Antoine Boza again. So, like I say, he's featured twice on this batch, and he still has 1 game left on the top 10 to go over. And I wonder if people can figure out which one that is right now. So, that's it. We're almost there. 10 more games. 10 more games in the Aftermath episode before we're finally done for another year. At least until next August when I'll have to do the top 100 again. But, you know, it's good fun to do. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for viewing. You know, the fact that all of these videos are hitting the 1,000 view plus club like within a matter of days is just staggering compared to last year. I think some of last year's videos haven't even touched 1,000, let alone done it in a day. It's just such a good thing to see. But if you like what you see, check out the rest of the review videos for stuff that I've mentioned on this list. Let me know in the comments. Do you love, hate these games? Whatever. You know, just get in touch and be nice to other people, but get involved with the debates as well. Love to read what you have to say. So that's it for me. I'll catch you on the final top 10 of my top 100. But for now, just remember, love it or hate them, they're still only games. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.